these are the architecture that we need to cover. I think, is it visible to everyone? Is this screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yes, sir, it is visible, sir.
okay, okay, thank you. Fine, fine. Okay, so the distributed system, I already in my last lecture I already discussed about the distributed and parallel system. I think you remember those things. I have given an overall view of what is distributed system, how the architecture is. Okay, so distributed system means the systems are which are geographically separated and they actually distributed in different locations. Okay, and some virtualization is also working between the distributed system, that a client is part of that network and feel that he is the only user of that system. Okay, so this sort of illusions is actually working in distributed system, and cloud architecture is nothing but a, you can say, an extension and a high-end extension of the distributed system. In last class I already discussed it. And distributed system, that each and every system has its own local memory, and they actually share their own memory objects, unlike parallel system, because in parallel system there is one centralized memory. Okay, so that all these things regarding this distributed system in detail I already discussed. Okay, so today we are going to discuss one more important distributed system, and we are going to discuss the difference between that system with a cloud architecture, or that system architecture with a cloud architecture, because frequently the question will come. But the distributed system we need to discuss today is client server distributed system, or you can say client server architecture, which is very of common term to you. I think all of you have, if you don't have an idea about client server, but I think this term is very familiar to you. Okay, client server architecture. And and the other distributed systems architectures are peer-to-peer architecture, this parallel, cluster, grid, these all architecture we have already discussed in my previous classes. Okay, then service-oriented architecture. Mainly our focus of today's discussion is client server architecture, and is one of its variants service-oriented architecture. That means what type of architecture we are using while we are part of the service. Okay, web services. Okay, how the web services will be dealt, and what type of architectural style we actually following in case of web, when we are using web services. Okay, so these two things we are going to focus today. One is client server architecture, and another one is service oriented architecture. So client server architecture and how the client server architecture is different from the cloud architecture. What is the difference between them? Mostly they are similar, most of the part they are similar, but they're a little bit different, and that difference is also quite important to understand. So that we will discuss in our lecture. So let me just these are the things I already discussed: distributed system and its characteristics. So you have to think that all these characteristics has been maintained by all these systems. Okay, it's actually follow, because these are the various part of various version you can say of distributed system. So resource sharing, openness, concurrency, scalability, fault tolerance, security, and manageability. These are the various characteristics of distributed system. So our client server architecture, our client server system must follow all these characteristics. Okay, now this is a client server architecture. Try to understand very clearly. I'm giving you some real life example and try to follow some architecture. So in client server architecture, this is also sometimes it also called tier architecture. Okay, TIER, tiering or tier architecture. Okay, how many tiers are there? This is called N tier architecture, capital N tier architecture. So that N can be 1, then it is a 1 tier architecture. If N is equal to 2, then it's a 2 tier architecture. If N equal to 3, there is a 3 tier architecture. In this way, there is a multi tier architecture is also possible. So it actually depends on the web services, the characteristic of web services, the number of tiers will be increased. Okay. Now, what is client server architecture? Client server architecture is a distributed system model where data and processing is distributed across a range of components. Okay, data and processing. So it has been distributed. So in the client server architecture, generally server generally represents a data server. Okay, that means it contains a database management system and a huge data storage. So based on the request of the client, it has been provided services and provides the data from its data server. Okay, so very simple. In client server architecture, there are two components. One component is for client and another component is for server. Okay, so client generally connected with this architecture through a web browser, you can say, or a web services. And what are the characteristic or architecture of the web services, that we will discuss as a service oriented architecture. Okay, so client are connected, or consumer or end users are connected through the web browser into the client part, and they make a request to access a set of services from the to the server. Okay. So based on the authenticity of the client, the server will provide its corresponding services, including the data services. Okay, it is also possible that sometimes client or consumer is also accessing some important data. As for example, suppose if you are a bank consumer, so that means bank user, bank end user. So your requirement, or you are a bank customer, your requirement to know your account balance, your requirement to know the current interest rate of the savings account or FD account, or all the other informations that has been stored into the bank server database. So there is one end, that is a bank server end, and there is another end, that is a client end, or a consumer end, bank consumer end. So bank consumer requests through the online banking, bank consumer requests to the bank server to access a particular data of his or her own information, as well as some general information which has been stored into the bank server. So based on that request, if the customer is an authenticate customer, because you have a username password to before you are using a online banking, obviously you must be an authenticate person of that particular bank services. Okay. So if you are using a bank services, then you have to first put a username and password. You have to first prove that you are an authenticate person, and then you make a request which type of services you want to access. Now there is one very important questions regarding these bank services, that not all the informations are available to the bank customer or bank end user. Okay, please remember, not all the informations are available to the bank customer banking, because some information are very intelligent informations and some information are secure information. So as a customer, you don't need to know, or you don't require to know this information. So there's an abstraction layer is working between client and server layer, or kind of server architecture, which will provide an abstract view of the bank server. It will not making an open to the customer, that all the bank server is open to the customer and they can access any data as per their choice. It is not possible. Okay. So set of servers which provide specific services such as printing, data management, etc. Set of clients which call on this service. Obviously, I already told the server provides services, whereas client provides requests. Okay, for the services. So request means here represented by call. There is a network which will connect client and servers. Obviously, network connection should be there, which will connect client and server. So based on the speed of the network, your data services will be given. Okay, will be accessed. Clients know of servers, but servers don't know of clients. Okay, so clients know there is one server, bank server, which you want to access, but bank server don't know clients. How many clients is there? They don't know actually. Okay. So it's very simple, that you are going for a railway reservation system. Suppose you are physically, suppose when you are going to purchase a ticket of a train, or doing a reservation of a train physically, not online. So you are going to a railway reservation system. So you are going to a railway counter. In front of the counter, you have to fill up a form, and you will have to directly submit the form. And based on that form, they will actually provide you a reservation in a rail ticket. Okay. So this is also an example of client server architecture. Okay, that you are a client and you are provide a request to do a reservation for a particular source and destination in a railway system. Now, this is the overall architecture of the client server architecture has been given. It is example of film and picture library. Okay, so as a client, you are the film and picture lover. So you are actually trying to hit the picture servers, film servers, and picture servers to access their server, to access their databases. So these are the various server: catalog server, video server, picture server, and hypertext server. So based on that server, you have the different clients are accessing different servers. So distributed system. So I already told distributed system means there may be multiple client server connections. Okay, multiple client server connections. Okay, this example has been showing here. If there is only single client server connection, then it cannot be said as a distributed system. Okay. So there's an abstraction. So if the client 1 is accessing a particular server, the client 1 doesn't know about client 2, client 3, client 4. So there is an abstraction layer working between them. So you can understand this abstraction, isolation, these terms are very familiar with you, because in cloud architecture, whatever architecture I already discussed, I have used couple of times the similar sort of terms, isolation or abstraction. Okay, so client 1 has a illusion that he or she is the only user or sole user of the entire system. Okay, but that is not true. Okay, now computers in a client server network. Okay, how the computers will be managed? So this SC1, SC2 are server computer 1, server computer 2. Okay, and these are the client computer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, total 6 client computer. This is the overall system which is connected through a network, a distributed system which is connected through a network. And I have shown a overall architecture. Okay, a block diagram based architecture. This square are the servers and these circles are the client machines. Okay. Now, let me tell you the layered application architecture of the client. The client-server architecture has several advantages and disadvantages. What are the advantages? Distribution of data is straightforward. Okay, makes effective use of network system. Obviously, bandwidth and speed of the network is also issue here. So we have to use effectively. We have to use a network system. May require cheaper hardware. Okay, obviously virtualization concept is there, so one client can access multiple servers. Okay, through the virtualization. So that's why you don't require individual client server architecture in hardware base. So that's why cheaper hardware. Just like a cloud architecture. Easy to add new servers or upgrade existing servers. Just like cloud architecture, scalability is possible. This is easy to add a new server or upgrade existing server means scalability. So if you remember, upgrade an existing server means you are actually scale up and scale down. In auto scaling, I already told there are four terms. Okay, one is vertical scaling, another one is horizontal scaling. In vertical scaling, we actually scale up and scale down. That means we are upgrading the power of the existing processor. We are upgrading the memory of the existing servers. We are upgrading the hard disk drive, or the size, the storage space of the existing server based on the requirement. So this is called a horizontal scaling, or vertical scaling, which is also called scale up or scale down. So here is also possible to upgrade an existing server, that is called a vertical scaling, and add a new server. If you remember, in horizontal scaling, I'm telling you add multiple number of virtual machines is an example of a horizontal scaling. That is also called scale in and scale out. Okay, so this add a new server is an example of that horizontal scaling. Okay, so these are the client server architecture. So I already told in most of the features, client server architecture is similar with the cloud system. Some features is different that I will discuss. Okay, now what are the disadvantages? Redundant management in each server. Obviously, there are multiple servers. We have to redundantly manage those servers, and no central register of names and services. It may hard to find at what server. Actually, whatever information has been stored, that has been distributed among multiple servers. So there is no central server. So in one place, there is no compact way you can find the names and register names and services. Okay. So these are the disadvantages which can be negligible. Okay, based on the advantages, disadvantages is very negligible, insignificant. Now, layered approach. Please try to understand this. The question is it's frequently come, and as a software engineer, you have to understand in client server architecture what are the various architecture exist. Okay, so in client server architecture, there are 3 layered approach. Okay, the n-tier architecture, I already told n-tier architecture possible. Okay, so n is equal to 1, then it's a 1 tier. If n equal to 2, is a 2 tier. If n equal to 3, is a 3 tier. So let me give you some example. In n equal to 1 tier architecture, 1 tier architecture is generally not using, because 1 tier architecture is actually you are using your own personal machine. So client and server both are similarly exist into the same personal machine. That there is no distributed environment, or there is no distributed environment concept in clients in 1 tier architecture. So that's why 1 tier architecture, you can say the client and server exist into the same standalone machine. Suppose your personal computer. So you are without connecting the internet. Suppose you are searching something. Okay, in MS Word you are searching something. So you have written a paragraph and you are searching a particular word by the help of Control F in MS Word. So you are making a request for the search into the MS Word from your hard disk, from your storage words. MS Word will fetch that particular word to you. Or you are searching some software, whether the software you have been installed in your machine or not. Suppose you forget it and you are going to search it, whether you have installed it or not, or whether the software installation present in your machine or not, that you are going to search through the run button. So that is an example of 1 tier client server architecture. That means here client and server both are existing into the single machine, or your personal computer or your personal machine. Okay. Now, so obviously, you can understand this 1 tier architecture. You cannot say that it's actually it is not popularly used. That means it is not used in case of web services, because there is no connection. There is no concept of the distributed and no concept of the network services. Okay. Now, the second type of architecture is a 2 tier architecture. Listen very carefully. The second type of architecture is a 2 tier architecture. In 2 tier architecture, there is only 2 layers. One is presentation layer, another one is data management layer. Okay, this layer is not present in 2-tier architecture. Actually, this picture is given for the 3-tier architecture, not 2-tier. Okay, 3 tier ache, so there is a 3-tier architecture. So in case of 2-tier architecture, you have only 2 layers. One is presentation layer, another one is data management layer, or you can say data server layer. Okay. Example of 2-tier architecture. Suppose the railway reservation system is example of 2-tier architecture, or your Make My Trip or Go Ibibo is an example of 2-tier architecture. So if you remember that if you are searching a hotel, okay, so you have a web browser, you have a presentation layer through which an end user are connected, and they can searching through the web browser, and that presentation layer directly connected with the data management layer. From this is a data management layer of the, suppose, Make My Trip server. So Make My Trip server has a storage of multiple hotels, their location, their prices, their charges, everything. So you are searching for a particular place, how many hotels are there, and you want to know the information about it. So data management layer from data server, Make My Trip will fetch the information and present to you. Okay, so there is no concept of application processing layer or business logic layer. Please understand, try to understand this very carefully. So what is presentation layer? Concerned with presenting the results of computation to system users and with collecting user inputs. Data management layer concerned with managing the system databases, which is very simple. So example of 2-tier architecture where only 2 layers are presenting, that is presentation layer and data management layer. An example of 2-tier architecture is railway reservation system or Make My Trip or Go Ibibo. Okay. Now there is another sort of architecture which is most widely used or popularly used compared to 2-tier architecture, that is called 3-tier architecture. And in 3-tier architecture, there is one extra layer has been added in between the presentation layer and the data server layer. That extra layer is called application processing layer or business layer. What is the extra layer? Extra layer is called application processing layer or business layer. The concerned with providing application specific functionality. Okay, application banking system. In banking system, we are using 3-tier architecture. Okay, like open account, close account. Suppose you want to withdraw something, withdraw an amount from an account. So if you want to withdraw an amount from an account, so there must be some business logic exist which will check whether that amount is already present in your savings or not. Suppose you want to withdraw 10,000 rupees from your bank account, so there must be some logic is running behind of it which will check whether 10,000 amount is present in your current savings account or not. If it is not present, it will show that it is not present. Your lack of sufficient balance. Okay, so there must be some logical type of concept is there. So if you notice that in case of railway reservation system, in case of especially in case of Make My Trip or Go Ibibo, there is no logical concept is working behind of it. Okay, that means comparing greater than, less than, whether your current amount is greater than 10,000 or not, or less than 10,000 or not. That sort of logical sense is applicable for in case of banking system. So let me show you one more architecture here. So this is an example of 3-tier architecture. Look at this picture very carefully. So this is a presentation tier. 3-tier means these 3 layers are called 3-tier. That's why its name is tier. Okay, so you can use either layer or tier as per your choice. So presentation tier, the topmost level tier through which the user, the end user can communicate with the system through the user interface, or you can say the web browser, and they can give input or request through this tier. Now data tier for the services of the data, providing the data from the database servers and all these things. The logical tier tells, look the lines very carefully. This layer coordinates the application, processes commands, makes logical decisions. This is very important. Makes logical decisions and evaluations and performs calculations. Okay, calculation means whether greater than, less than, or addition. This sort of calculation can be performed in logical tier, and it also moves and processes data between the 2 surrounding layers. So one of the very basic example of logical 3-tier architecture is this. Suppose as a student you are going to fill up a form of a university or a college or an examination form, whatever you say. So if you look after this matter, if you notice this matter in examination form, in the name. So in the name field, so they can be given maximum, suppose 20 characters can be applicable in the name field. So more than 20 characters is not possible to enter into a name field. So this sort of checking is applicable in student application form. Not only name field, suppose in the email address field, the email address field will be in the format of email address. Okay, so what will the format or general format of email address? If you look at the format of email address very carefully, you can notice that the first portion before the @ the email address portion will be made of by capital A to capital Z, any letter between capital A to capital Z, or small a to small z, or any numbers between 0 to 9. Okay, before the @ then followed by @ symbol that is fixed. Always @ symbol should be given. There should be no other symbol will be given. And the third, after the @ part, the second part of the email address is something A to Z, capital A to Z. Only letters will be applicable, not numbers. A to Z .com or .net. Dot operator is fixed, and again A to Z, because in case of .com, always .com is not there, .edu is there, .gov is there, .net is there. So different sort of domain is there, and different sort of servers are there. Gmail server, Yahoo Mail server, Hotmail server, different type of servers are there. So this is the general format of the email address. So as a student, whenever you are entering the details of your examination form or the email address, you have to follow this format: capital A to Z, then @ then A to Z later, then dot, then A to Z later. In this way, you have to follow the format. If you don't follow the format, if your input doesn't follow that format, then the business layer or logical layer will give you the error message. Okay, it will calculate this thing. Okay, so this is the client server architecture. Acha, up to this, anyone has any problem? Karo kono jigyasha ache to jigyasha korte paro. Anyone has any doubt? Is it clear to you all the three architectures, 3 tier, 1, 2, 3? Karo kono doubt ache jigyasha korte paro. Up to this, anyone has any doubt? If you have any doubt, please ask me. Please give a response. Karo kono doubt ache regarding this client server architecture and its various types, 1 tier, 2 tier, 3 tier?
No, sir. It's clear, sir.
It's clear though? Okay, fine, very fine.
Yes, sir.
Very fine. Okay, there are some version of clients like thin client, fat client. These are not very important. If you want to learn, you can go through it. Okay, I'm not going to cover these things. These are not very important. Okay, this tiring, which I already discussed, it has been discussed here. Okay, you just go through it, which I already discussed, it has been discussed here. Okay, so please remember the examples. If you remember the example, you won't forget. Okay, so this is a 3 tier architecture, which I already told that in 3 tier architecture, each of the application architecture layers may execute on a separate processor. So this 3 tiers is there: client tier or presentation layer, application processing or business logic layer, and then the server data management or data server layer. Okay, so it is also scalable architecture. As demand increases, extra servers can be added. So these are the general characteristic which I already discussed in case of distributed system and client server system. Okay. Now this is an example of a banking system of a 3 tier architecture. Okay. Now there is one more concept which is called service oriented architecture. That means whenever a client wants to access the services or request for a services through a web service or web browser, then how it will happen? Okay, how it will actually works. Now based around the notion of externally provided services. Okay, so obviously service oriented architecture based around the notion of externally provided services. So it will not run internally. So automatic service request cannot be provided in service oriented architecture. It follows the client server architecture model. So there must be some user which is coming from externally and give some request to access some services. Okay, and that can be done by the help of web services. Okay. Now, a web service is a standard approach to making a reusable component available and accessible across the web. A tax filing service could provide support for users to fill in their tax forms and submit these to the tax authorities. So, tax filing applications is an example of service-oriented architecture. So, service-oriented architecture is a characteristic, a big characteristic is you say that there should be a advertisement type of things. A web service always should be advertised. Okay, that the external clients should be aware about those services. To be dekbe, the Modi government or our central government always try to at the end of each and every year, at the end of each and every financial year, they are trying to boost up all the peoples to fill their taxes. So this is actually an advertisement for web services. Okay, so fill their taxes through online. So this tax filing is an example of service-oriented architecture. So please remember, in service-oriented architecture is advertising the web service about the web services is one of the important characteristic of service-oriented architecture. This service-oriented architecture is short form SOA. Okay, so please remember the short form because questions are also coming in short forms. Okay, SOA architecture, SOA, S for service, O for oriented, and A for architectures. Okay, please remember these short terms. Now, This is a example of a web services, how the web services will be there. So there is a service requester, or you can say the client or service user, and there is a service provider. Okay, so this is a service, or you can say the server, from which it will fetch the form. Okay, and please remember, all these sort of applications generally follow the 3-tier architecture. Okay, 3-tier architecture, not 2-tier, not 1-tier. 2-tier architecture খুব কম জায়গায় follow করা হয়, যেখানে simple applications আছে, but tax filing is always a complex application because there are several fields, several logical concept has been applied into the forms. Okay, and so that's why they are also following the clients 3-tier client service architecture. Okay, and service registry will be there to register the names. Okay, obviously কারা কারা tax submit করেছে, so based on that names, they have to be registered that these are the users, or these are the people of our country, has already service people of our country which has already filing a taxes. Okay, so there must be a service registry in case of tax servicing web services. Okay, now service oriented architecture characteristics. These are the characteristics of service oriented architecture. Is provider independency. Okay, it does not depends on the providers, it does not depends on the provider, it provider independence. Okay, now second one is public advertisement of service availability. Please remember this statement I already discussed. Advertisement is required, and that should be required publicly. So public advertisement of service availability. So Modi government has told that there is a online system for tax filing, so you can go to that particular site to file your tax. So there is a online tax filing services available, and that should be advertised publicly. Okay, now potentially runtime service binding. Obviously it's a runtime service binding, server is running at the back end, so the runtime, and there must be some limitation. Not throughout the entire year the tax service is not open, so there must be a limitation for up to that particular time the tax service is open. Okay, so opportunistic construction of new services through composition. Pay for use of services. Okay, sometimes it may use the concept of cloud architecture as well in tax services, so they can be as a pay for use of services. Smaller, more compact application. Obviously it is the form which has been designed, that should be in more compact way. Okay, in service oriented architecture it should be remembered, the developers, or you can say the designer, should be remembered that the form design should be in a compact way. Okay, or a smaller way, that the users will not get confused. Okay, reactive and adaptive applications. Okay, obviously the application should be adaptive in nature. Suppose any new user wants to give a input, any new constraints, or you can say any new sort of things will be added. Okay, so that should be adaptive. So application should be adaptive in nature, so in future any things can be modified. Okay, any things can be added, okay, with the existing applications. Now these are the things which makes the web service application easy to use. Okay, so web service application generally use XML. Okay, extended markup language. Okay, I think all of you are familiar with this term. XML is actually a tag which is user choice tag, which is also called user choice tag, whereas HTML is a system choice tag. Okay, HTML tag cannot be mentioned or designed by the user, whereas XML tag can be designed by the user, and XML generally used for the data transferring or data processing. So XML based standards so can be provided on any platform and written in any programming language. XML can be written in any programming language, and it can be provided on any platform. Okay, so W3 standards is also used for the web services standards like SOAP. These things I already discussed in the last class in eucalyptus architecture. Simple object access protocol. Okay, apart from this, there WSDL, UDDI. You just need to know the names of these. Okay, and there's a REST. These things I also discussed in the last class. REST, representational state transfer, is a simpler type of style of software architecture for distributed systems such as web. Okay, so in a distributed system they follow this sort of software architecture, that is a REST. Okay, representational state transfer architecture. Okay, in any web distributed system such as web follows this software architecture form of architecture. Now these are the example of service oriented architecture. Okay, this one example, real life example has been given. Suppose in an automatic car right now, in a car there is a driver's information panel will be there, which will use to represent the current weather condition of the environment, the road traffic conditions. Okay, local transformation. Not only that, the position of the car, the location of the car, and where to go, the destinations of the car, so by the help of GPS server. And this sort of information, this road traffic weather information can be done by the help of, can be made by the radio specific channel. Not only that, there must be a language translator. Please remember, there must be a language translator available in each and every car, because the car is actually dependent, but they actually running on different countries. So different countries follows different sort of language, regional languages. So when the car is running, so there must be language transfer, a language translator, which will be convert the general language into their own regional languages. Okay, so this sort of architecture has been provided by the part of the service oriented architecture. Okay, service oriented architecture example or scenario you can say. Okay. So these is the automatic cart system. So the entire thing has been showed in the form of your diagram. Okay, block diagram that I am not going to discuss. So up to this, anyone has any problem?